what I've noticed with all four speakers is that they're not afraid of AI. There's no fear here. No fear that they will take over our humanity or anything whatsoever. And that is a good sign. Let me go to the messages in the chat and the Q&A. The Q&A is Selo Mokwena says, why do you think universities are continuing strong despite them becoming irrelevant? I think that is a question for Sue McKenna.
Consider continuing strong. Are we continuing strong? Yes, we are. Well, I think that we probably in a state of flux, and I think we need to think very carefully about what a university is and should be. At current, I would suggest that we have veered a little bit too far towards being training centers, credentialing people for industry. It's hard to argue against that understanding of the university, and I'm not arguing against that understanding. I'm just saying that when the economic comparative or the economic benefit of a university education becomes the entire understanding of it, then we lose the possibility of actually engaging with many of our other responsibilities. And I think that if we don't watch that, we are going to become irrelevant. We already see that in many cases the decline in number of students wanting to do university education, because it is understood entirely as a credential that you get to get a better job. And so, understanding it as a private good means the state has given less money to it. We see cases in the UK is the obvious example. Fees go up because why should the state subsidize something that's simply good for the individual or good for industry? And so you have this rapid decline in student numbers. So I think we're at a precipice. We need to think very carefully about what the university is for. And maybe AI gives us a real opportunity. Instead of being so caught up and worrying about our students using AI to cheat, we can think about, well, what is a university for in society? Where does AI fit into that? I don't think universities are doing as well as they could or should be doing right now.
A question here says, could Prof. Corinne elaborate on any work being done using AI to consider the development of effective sustainable transport that goes beyond just the greening of vehicles, i.e. avoiding and shifting the need to and way of traveling?
That's a complex question. I would say, in terms of part of it is that it's very similar to how will AI solve the power crisis that we face in South Africa, in terms of from our perspective and looking at how AI as a tool can benefit, is that it has the capacity to bring recommendations of improving an existing process, if you were to generalize it to some extent, and make recommendations how to do something better, right? So if you had alternatives, in reality, in an ideal world, you could use AI to recommend the best choice. That's primarily where we believe that the technology can contribute. But the challenge we have is infrastructure. I mean, that's a reality coming from our perspective. How do we speak greening of vehicles when we have other challenges? I mean, the road surfaces themselves are falling apart, sorry to say, in some parts of our country. That's one of the projects we're looking at, by the way, and using AI to better map that out as one of our projects in our environment. So there's a lot of ideologies that assume that we work in an ideal society. And the reality is sometimes not quite oriented. And this is part of what I mentioned earlier, that we live in unequal societies, and that contributes to the inability sometimes of these technologies being able to propose suitable solutions that could solve some of these problems, because we've got other problems to deal with. So it's not fully answering your question. In reality, yes, you could get an AI engine to give you the best solution. But the reality is that we have got infrastructural challenges that we face as a country. I hope that for now can answer your question. Thank you.
Colum Stevenson says, thank you, very interesting. I do wonder about the PC4IR mandate, right? Politically correct, I assume that stands for, that the AI Institute must be embedded within the state and that it must generate applications for government. I get the potential evils of big tech corporate controlling AI, but surely the evils of the state control is similarly problematic. What do you think could be some of the alternatives other than we must all work together mantra? Apologies, my sound cut out, so I missed some of the presentation.
I think there's a bit of, there's many initiatives. Firstly, I think the PC4IR was a recommendation, obviously at government level, that government needs to take play a role, and correctly so. It needs to play a role in how AI is rolled out across society. But in that process, they've also identified that there's a lot of opportunity, considering, I don't think, as much as there is some overlap between the different initiatives, there is uniqueness. I mean, I'm sorry to maybe use this as an example. If you take the AI Institute part, there's an initiative at the CSIR that's focusing on AI, the one that was presented by Prof. Moodley earlier. So these are all different initiatives oriented towards AI, but personally, in my opinion, the objectives are slightly different, in terms of where they want to make an impact on. And this specific objective is to grow the sector. If you really look at it, is to make an impact on the sector. And the objective of this particular initiative is maybe oriented to see how best it can drive government-oriented needs. So there's, for example, I've highlighted the need to contribute to this government cloud and a single identity, which is one of the challenges we have, as a society. The motor manufacturing industry is a critical sector, in our society, and so on. You can take each of the different catalytic projects. Each of them have sort of opportunity to utilize AI that can make a greater impact from a society point of view. And the idea in this particular, it's not meant to be a controlling element. It is to impact society in sectors that are seen to be strategic for the government, which has a natural benefit for different sectors of society. That's how we see it. That's how I believe government sees it. It's not meant to be a controlling mechanism. These are all different initiatives which I think complement each other to growing the sector and capacitating it to bring about greater benefit for all. So I think one needs to see it from that perspective. That's my personal view of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anish. Right, there's Renee Annandale says she's involved in foundational phase teaching and research from kindergarten for our international participants. I'm tempted to ask my students to use AI to complete an assignment and then they have to critique the same assignment. I had a master's student recently that used it to complete his research proposal. I caught him out when I checked the information against the sources cited. Prof. McKenna, what do you think of that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should be playing around with AI with our students. We need students to understand how AI works. Obviously, that's a moving target because it changes all the time. So there's a few exercises I've done recently. The one is, there's some really fun activities. The one is to look at, I'll put it in the chat as soon as I can find it, but you can probably Google for it, that there's a site that offers you side by side two faces. One is generated by AI and one's a real photograph. And you click on which one's real and it tells you correct or incorrect. And then you go to the next two faces and you've got to click on which one's AI generated, which one's real. And it's really fascinating and alarming and important that our students become aware of how quickly a very realistic person's face can be developed. And it just makes them learn how to be a bit skeptical before they pass on a WhatsApp video, or, you know, that they're very aware that people can create media. You could see Sue McKenna saying something, you've witnessed it with your own eyes, but it's not real. It's AI generated. So that's just one exercise. Another exercise I did recently, which worked really well, is students we've all been working with the same 3 articles. We were looking at 3 articles on a particular issue. It's a reading group on a particular issue. And so what we did is we used different large language models, one, you know, Chat, Bing, whatever, and put the articles in and asked the algorithm to summarize or to develop an essay on the 3, or we did various prompts. And then we sat with them and we got them to look at, well, now these are articles that my students have read, they know, they've just deliberated, they've got strong views about, they know these articles back to front. And then they could look at what these LLMs generated and say, but hang on, this is wrong. Or they seem to think that this is the main point of the article. That was a minor point of the article. So being able to, and in fact, what we did is we had 3 highlighters. You highlight things that are factually incorrect in one color, highlight things that are off the point in another color, and then highlight things that are what you would have said yourself in another color. And then just have a conversation around those kind of distinctions to start to understand both the power and the limitations of artificial intelligence. And I think getting students to engage in those kind of activities is hugely important, that we curriculate for them, you know, those things, rather than just saying, thou shalt not use AI and leaving it at that, because they are going to come across AI in the workplace and they need to be able to use it efficiently and very critically. So, you know, and just things like this whole thing of hallucinations. I mean, the word is so prevalent now, we can't fight against it, but I actually hate that word because it suggests that the machine has some kind of human ability to make things up, whereas of course certainly at the moment all it is, well, it's more sophisticated than just this, but it follows the algorithm on the basis of its massive database. What is the most likely next word? What is the most likely next sentence? What's the most likely next paragraph? I mean, that's a bit simplified, but so it's not telling a truth or a lie. It's simply giving you your prompt will lead it to give the most likely next word and most likely next word and most likely next word. And, you know, I'm very slightly simplifying it here, but getting students to understand that it doesn't make up truth. It doesn't tell a lie. It doesn't hallucinate. It simply generates the most likely text on the basis of your prompt. And I think these are things that we really need to be engaging with students. And thanks to AI, we can do it in really fun ways. So yeah, I think we have to embrace it and get our students to be playing critically with this stuff.
Right, indeed. We have officially run out of time, but you are welcome to stay on for a few more minutes and ask questions and keep chatting. To try and summarize is quite a challenge. I might have to get AI to do that. Firstly, we had Professor Nelwa Mondu, and he referred to design misalignments and design agendas, overlapping ownership ambiguities, those kinds of dilemmas. Quite a number of pitfalls he mentioned. He spoke about guardrails, and particularly it struck me that he said in industry you would be looking at standard operating procedures, regulatory policies, you would look at national and international standards, and the role of voluntary bodies. So there's a lot that has to happen in our society to actually put up guardrails against these the pitfalls of artificial intelligence. Then Deshan Moodley spoke about augmented AI, and that perspective is quite interesting because they are not looking at independent AI, which everybody else seems to be wanting to develop. And then with all its specters of general AI. But with augmented AI, it is human-centric, and you're looking at what are the human needs and then giving people the tools to be able to do what they have to do. Found that quite interesting, and the way in which you can program the behavior of the AI to be slow thinking or fast thinking, and all kinds of variations of that. In other words, one can adapt it to be suitable to people, presumably to individuals, but I suppose groups of people as well. He referred to a hybrid AI system architecture, and said that we, or they, are still at the point of automating knowledge discovery and evolution. And there is still a long way to go in terms of what AI can assist us in doing. That he said that augmented systems are the way of the future. And so we need to do more in that regard. He spoke about an AI ecosystem, and there particularly he referred to health. And I really hope, Prof. Moodley, that we can actually develop something that would leapfrog us forward in terms of South Africa's health system. That would be very valuable. Then Sue McKenna spoke about the university and what the university is and has been doing, the history of it, and that now we have to adapt to a new situation. And somehow we must be aware of how students have become customers, industry has become customers, and universities are regarded as industries that are churning out products. So I think it helps to have that kind of awareness. I'm not sure what we do about it at this stage, Prof. McKenna, but I think that it is very good that this is studied from a humanities perspective, so that we can grow in understanding. She stressed that it's an educational problem and it requires an educational response. That the main job of the university is not to police, catch, and punish plagiarism. It is a lot of other things besides. I liked the reference to the white paper of education in South Africa, that the aim of education is nurturing a critical citizenry. Well, one of the aims. And this is certainly something that can happen better at a university than anywhere else. And she said that universities should be engaging with AI, driving critical responses to big tech in the service of the common good. Universities, I got the impression, should be more outspoken about it. Prof. Anish Karin, apologies, Prof. Karin, spoke about AI having potential and risks. He gave a summary of that, and he spoke about what the Institute is doing, which is very interesting indeed. The Institute is expected by the South African state to have catalytic projects that can make a difference in the development of South Africa and tackling developmental problems. And so there are very interesting areas in which the Institute is working. In the automotive industry, manufacturing, farming and food, etc. There's 7 areas. And said in conclusion that there is a race to react to the developments in AI, but AI can be adapted and adopted to prepare people for the future. And there needs to be a rethink on how to use AI. So that is it in a nutshell. Sue McKenna says some fun activities to get students a bit critical in simply digesting AI. Please make a copy of that before you leave, everybody. Treda Prekel says, thanks, and it's a fascinating overview and many thought-provoking points. The way ahead is exciting. Anish Kurin says, for sure, one of the objectives is to ensure there's greater impact across society, whether it is in health or in agriculture. It is one of our objectives as an institute. Are there any engagements between universities and industries in terms of curricular development and AI use in order to ensure that students are job ready in terms of AI use in industries? And Prof. McKenna answers that I think they are starting in pockets. And then Sue McKenna says, thanks so much for the conversation. Time to have the Friday night drink. You refer to Yancy, and keep well, everyone. Indeed. Enjoy your Friday evening. Folks, if you're in Africa, enjoy the rest of the day. If you're in America, particularly in New York, and I am looking forward to the conference continuing next week. So I hope to see you in some of the sessions. Thank you, Mariana.